I see.
So,
Staring straight. Wait, is
folder
it recording?
2, audio file 1, clap it, Lynn. No, towards the mic so we pick it up. There it is. Who is that girl we see on the other side? It's Hi guys, welcome to the
Hello.
podcast again. We spent like a bit just warming up, talking about relationships,
What a
perspectives,
shame.
and
We should have
everything.
recorded it.
Yeah,
We
we
talked
should
about some
record it.
pretty racy stuff.
Yeah, but now that we have an understanding of like where we stand and everything, and how what we've gone through and stuff, I think it's great to bring it in. So let's talk about previously you mentioned about long distance relationship. Are we okay to talk about that?
Did we talk about that? I
You
don't think we
mentioned
talked
it.
about it. Well, I mentioned a relationship that happened, but we were
Yeah.
talking about like other aspects of it. But sure, why not?
How,
If
how
it
about how
helps,
about I start?
if
How's
it
that?
helps for people to be like knowing my experience in this, then I
Yeah.
guess I could. Yeah, I wouldn't have any problem sharing.
I can start, okay?
Yeah.
I've been in one long distance relationship when I was I want to say 21. We met here. We were coworkers at a retail store, and we just decided to like start talking. I think her sister introduced me to her first, and then she was like, "Oh yeah, what do you think of my sister?" I'm like, "Oh, she's cute," right? So we kicked it off for a bit, and then we did it for a few months. But she had to move to the States, so East Coast of America, to go to school. And yeah, that was great. I tried to be like, keep the relationship sustained for like, 2 months and stuff. And then I'm like 21. I'm just like trying to figure my stuff out and everything. Right. And it didn't work out in the end because I felt for me, it's like I had too many things on my mind, things I wanted to experience. Right. Because she was in the States for, I think it was like a 4 year kind of arts program thing. Right. And so I'm like, oh, I like this girl. Maybe I could do it for 4 years and see how it goes, right?
Okay. Can we backtrack though? Is she from here?
She's from Korea, I think.
Okay, so she was only here for a
Yeah.
short term.
Yeah, no, well, she moved here and she finished high school here and then she was here for
I
a bit.
see.
But her choice for post-secondary was in the States. And
I see.
yeah, like me, I liked her. Things were great. She was a pretty good girlfriend. And so I tried it for a bit, long distance, right? Texting, all this stuff. And this is like,
So how long did you guys date before it became long
I
distance?
want to say like 6 months,
Okay.
maybe less, maybe more. I don't remember. It was a while ago, but we spent the first 4 months apart. Like, well, not like 4 months in the whole. She was moving to the States instead of going to school there, right? And I put in a lot of work and I tried my best, right? But there was a point where she was like, I may go to New York for another 4 years to get my master's, right?
Was it a question as in like would you be okay with me going to New York for my program, or was
Uh,
it more of an announcement
more
as
of
in like, oh, I'm
more of like
going
an
to New York?
announcement, right? And I'm at a point where I'm like, holy smokes, I'm 21. That means by the time she finished her master's in 4 years in the States here and 4 years in New York, that's 8 years total. I'm like, oh man, I'm 29, right? I would be in a long distance relationship for 8 years, and I'm like, am I willing to do this? Like, I
So
don't
what
know.
was your thought process actually as soon as she told you she was moving away?
Uh, Not gonna lie, a little heartbroken. I knew she was gonna move away for the first time. I thought it was gonna be like 2 years or kind of thing, right? Like it could start in school and then go from there, right? But it was made official. It was gonna be 4 years, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm focusing on my thing. I'm doing acting and working my job stuff and trying to make ends meet, right? So I'm like, I like this girl. She's really like, she's a good girlfriend and stuff. And like, she's really innocent, right? And that's what I really liked about her. And so I tried it for 4 months. And then it came the fifth month. I'm like learning all these new things she's been announcing, right? 4 years here, another 2 years. And then that 2 years will turn into 4 years. So about 8 years total. I'm like, yeah, I can't do it. Right? So I broke up with her and like I went through this phase where I'm like, I was a bit heartbroken and stuff. And then like I went through a rebound stage. And yeah, I think to this day I still have emotions for her, but it's been a while. It's been like 11 years now, so it's interesting. It wasn't a relationship that I felt like ended bad. It might have been in her eyes because like I guess I was her first like actual relationship, right? But I just couldn't do that. 9 years, 8 years of long
So
distance.
did you break it off as soon as you found out, or did you guys have
I
like a
gave it
trying
like
period?
I gave it like a couple weeks because like I really wanted to think about it.
So she moved away.
She was she was
Has she moved away at that point?
she was already gone.
Oh, okay.
She came back to visit after like 4 months of dating or something on long distance on all the phone stuff, right? And it's just when she told me there's 4 more years of potentially 2 years in New York and 2 more years additional, so 4 years
Oh
additional.
wow. So she didn't actually know how long she was going to be gone for when she first moved
She
away.
thought it would be like 4 years tops,
Right.
but then she realized I think she wanted to get her master's or something in like New
Right.
York.
Right. Right.
And I'm like, great, all right. So 6 years total, and it turned into 8 years. I'm like, oh man, don't think I can do 8 years. Like I like this girl, but like 8 years long distance, it's like I'm a very physical guy. My love language is touch, right? And if you're not here, I can't really express like affection, and like I can't really receive affection. So it's like it's not just only like sex, it's like kissing and stuff and holding hands and doing coupley things, right? So I couldn't do that, even though like she was trying her best to do things like online and stuff, right? It just didn't work for me, and I couldn't see myself do another 8 years of that. Well, I guess at that time it would be like 7 years more, because we already invested 1 year total. Half a year of her was in school and half the year was here, right? So I'm like, I wrapped it up. I'm like, I couldn't do it. I went through like a really dark phase after that breakup, and I'm just like rebound, just trying to like figure my stuff out. And from that day on, I've decided, I'm like, no, long distance relationship is not for Raymond.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, regardless of how compatible you are, any form of long distance relationships is just unconventional.
Yeah.
Right. You're missing out on so many things that normally would make the relationship. So it's like the physical touch and like the acts of service.
Yes.
Like you can't even be, well, you could, but you could be doing things for each other, as in like you could still plan surprises, and you could still like be buying things for each other. So I guess in that sense, you could still be like giving gifts.
Yeah.
But acts of service is more like, oh, can I be there for you when you're like feeling down? Can I like be sharing your housework with you? And just like just giving you like just being there and being and lending like a listening ear when you're going through a hard time. Even that is like a luxury, because you're
Yeah.
now on like different time zones.
Yeah.
So yeah, like for me, I think it's I've been through two long distance relationships, not my choice. Obviously, the first one was a bit more. I guess the first one was a bit more by choice, because we were really good friends for like over 2 years.
Wait,
Because
time out. How old were you with this one?
so this was actually the first serious relationship that I went through. Ended up being a long distance relationship.
Yeah.
So I was 21 at the time,
Oh,
and
so same age as me then, right?
yeah, and that was also my first serious relationship period. And we were friends for like over 2 years. We met in Seattle. We went to the same college in Seattle. We never like thought of anything romantic or more than just like a platonic friendship until I moved to Vancouver. And at the time I was really like, I was still adjusting, and I was missing Seattle a lot, so I would go back to visit every like 2 weeks or so. And the funny thing is, I actually went back because I had a date with someone else. So I had a date plan with someone else who was a lot older than me at the time. Well, he is a lot older. And at the time I had already been infatuated with this guy for a few years. And after I moved to Vancouver, I decided to like make a move on him, right? But he was like older. So for me, I just hesitated for a long time, but I finally made the move, and we were supposed to like go on a date. And I went back to Seattle, and I got bailed on. Like I got stood up.
The guy that you're infatuated
Yeah,
with.
the guy just like straight up like fell asleep, forgot that I made a 5-hour trip from Vancouver to Seattle, and like just completely like fell asleep and not answer my calls and text messages. So I was like, okay, this is a waste of time, because clearly like he did not give me enough consideration, and like whatever it was. But anyway, so fast forward, I went to my ex's place, my friend at the time. I went to his place, and then I just felt really not good enough of a woman, and I was having like a breakdown. And he was there for me, so as per usual, and we just sort of hit it off. And so anyway, that's the origin of the story. But we ended up dating, and we were in a relationship for 1.5 years. Yeah, and so that one was my first long distance relationship. It just sort of happened, but we always knew that it would be a long distance relationship from the point where we started. Yeah, the second one started out as a regular, relationship. And so we met in person and we started dating when we were in the same city. And it just happened that we got to the point where he had to make a decision to move away to, build his career. And at that point, it was also more of an announcement than, a discussion or just like a decision making process. But honestly, I don't think it would have made a big difference how like if he was to inform me in a different way, because it was very obvious that that was good. That was a good move, and we would have come to the same conclusion regardless. So for me, it some people may think that, oh, it's really unfair how I was just informed, sort of not being like I wasn't considered as like a like I didn't have a say in his decision. But for me, it was like, no, we would have come to the same conclusion. So I respected that decision, and I totally understand why he had to do it. And yeah, it was it was like unanimous
Interesting.
between the two of us. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a long distance. It's a lot of work, and it's just relationship alone. Like relationships alone is just a lot of work. So you add the long distance factor in it, the lack of physical touch, communication sometimes also gets affected too. It's hard to do. People who are in long distance relationship, they make it to the end and they get married and stuff. I have so much respect for them. Like I had this. I guess he wasn't a coworker of mine at Rogers, but he was like a rep for like a cell phone company, and his girlfriend was, I think, in Bellingham or something. So it wasn't too far from here. But they were seeing each other, and I was like, when he told me about that, I'm like, wow. And now they're actually, I think they're engaged or something now, or married, and I'm just like, that is amazing. The amount of time took to travel and stuff, and like the missed like opportunities, as in like being there for each other, and being able to get past that and still go further up and progress in your relationship is great. Yeah, Bellingham is like maybe like an hour and a half away from here, but still like the process of driving there.
Oh yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Like I said, my first long distance relationship was between Vancouver and Seattle, and it wasn't easy.
Seattle's 2 hours, 2.5.
Yeah, 2 hours driving.
Yeah.
Or well, back in the days, I hadn't like had a license,
Yeah.
so I would have to take the bus.
Yeah.
I would have to take a shuttle going from Vancouver to Seattle. So one way took about 4 to 5 hours, depending on how busy the border was, and so it's like a 10-hour round trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's still like not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hassle.
It is. I remember like when I first downloaded the app Hinge, one of the girls I matched was in somewhere in, I think it was Portland, Portland or Seattle, somewhere. It was 2.5 hours away, and I'm like, this, like, she's great. She's like matches a lot of the boxes I want, right? Before meeting this girl in person, right? And then she was talking about how like they're gonna build this like train, this bullet train that's gonna connect Vancouver to Seattle. And I'm like, that's great, but right now it's not great, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you meet your girlfriend, like, hey, we're gonna go on a date today. I'll see you in 2 hours, right? Versus
Yeah.
like, I'll see you in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like the longest right now for a girl that if I was to date would be like, even North Van is pushing it. Like Vancouver is probably the furthest. Downtown Vancouver is the furthest I'll travel.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that's the thing, like given the choice, I don't think anyone would naturally and just like right away go for a long distance.
No.
So it's most of the time it's just something that just happens.
Yeah.
And if at that moment it feels like it could be the right person.
Yes.
Like when you're so infatuated with the person, and when the relationship is at its peak, it just feels like it's hard for you to not give it a chance, right?
Yeah, it's hard to say no. It's hard to
It's
say
hard to
no.
say
Yeah.
no because it's also very hard statistically to come by the right person. So I
Yeah.
think naturally our brain tells us, okay, this is like an amazing person that's hard to come by. Is it worth giving it a shot?
Yeah, it's
Um,
true.
right? Like, and at that point, perhaps you don't even know if it's like worth a shot or not, but you still want to give it a try. Yeah, it's just because like the person is so amazing. How do you say no to that? You know?
I'm amazing. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, the thing with the girl that was my long distance relationship, and it's like when we first started dating, when we first met each other, she established that I'm gonna go to Ohio. If you don't feel comfortable with that, we don't have to like try anything.
Right.
So I walked into that relationship knowing she was gonna go for like 2 years or something, right? And then it became 4 years. I'm like, okay, that's fine. 4 years go by fast. Cell phone contracts are like 3 years, right? Just
But
get a new cell
yeah.
phone. By the time you get your next cell phone, it's done, right?
Yeah.
It's funny how I gauged my life back then, like through cell phone contracts, right? And now it's like through car finances,
Oh my
right?
God,
Oh boy,
yeah.
I don't know what it's gonna be in the next couple of years. But that time, like I knew I was walking the relationship was gonna be potentially long distance, and I was gonna give it a shot because I wanted to see how she was in person. This was like us first freshly started dating and stuff, right? And it was going really good. And so that's why I gave it a thought. And when I was 21, I was like, I was a bit of a playboy, and I didn't really have to settle for this or give it a second look, or if I didn't want to, right? But I knew she was a really nice, innocent girl. She was great. Everything was great about her, right? And so I'm like, let's try it out, see how it goes. But it just didn't work out. you know?
Obviously at the beginning, like before all the long distance fatigue kicks in,
Yeah.
you just feel like, oh, I could do anything, like there's so many ways to make up for it. And like, this is an amazing person. I'm gonna like, we're gonna beat the odds, and like, people always pick what they want to believe in, like even if statistically that's not the likely case, because
Yeah.
we also are in the generation that grew up with like The Notebook, and like so many like romantic comedies that
90s
touch
love
on like long
songs.
distance and
Yeah.
like destinies, and like people who are destined for each other will always find a way back to each other. So so at the beginning I found myself like, you know what, like, yeah, you this is not ideal, but I'm hopeful. Yeah, and let's just see how it goes. So for me, I was prepared. Like I was hoping for the best, but was prepared for the worst.
Yeah.
But I know that for a lot of other people, it's like they're really like counting on that happy ending and like that fairy tale, like storybook ending. But then reality kicks in, and yeah, it's not- it's really hard. And whoever that makes it happen, like your friend who ended up marrying his girlfriend who lived in Bellingham, I think that's just statistically that's the rare case.
So that is our podcast today in regards to everything and anything.
Yes, and then
Transforming
somehow it went into a long distance relationship.
long distance
and then it went
relationships.
back to anything and everything again.
Yeah, and it's great because like confidence and a mindset is definitely something we will want to talk about next. But with this one, long distance relationship was a pretty juicy one because it gives you insight of what we went through with our long distance relationships and how it affected us and it changed us, and it also gave you a little glance at our previous love life. So if you like this video, I certainly hope you do like this video because we're giving you our heart on like the raw platter, and my finger has black marks on it. Hit the like button there down over here and subscribe to my channel, please. I could really use your support.
Till next time.
Till next time.